you know.
Yeah, I know. It's great. It's super fun.
Hello, hello, everybody. Today we have another guest number two, and it's Michelle Coutinho. And I actually should have asked you, is that how you pronounce it?
And that was very close, and you totally get points for that. It's Coutinho. It's like
Coutinho.
it's
Okay, great.
Portuguese. It's Coutinho, which is like totally different.
Coutinho.
But I come from New York,
Coutinho.
and it's Coutinho. Yeah, thanks.
Coutinho. Okay. So let's do that over.
Oh, okay.
So let me just make it Coutinho. Coutinho.
Mhm.
Okay. Hello, hello, everybody. We have our guest number two, Michelle Coutinho, and I am so excited to have her here with us. Michelle is a healer like myself, more so a shamanic healer, a songstress, vocal alchemy, and an embodiment coach. She helps budding healers, seekers, and practitioners to attune to a deeper resonance within themselves through connecting with higher wisdom, rich vocal embodiment, deepening energy and presence, as well as owning their own personal power. I love it because I really feel like it seems our soul's purposes are really in perfect alignment. And so I'm not surprised that we somehow ended up being Facebook friends, even though we don't really know each other. Right?
Isn't that amazing how that
Oh, it's
works?
amazing. So, yeah, please, if you'd like to introduce yourself and well, go ahead.
Yeah.
Anything
So
I missed.
I know. I mean, I've been doing really healing work all my life. I grew up with a Jewish Orthodox father who got more Jewish and Orthodox as the time went on, and my mother was raised Catholic, but tarot cards and astrology and New Age books, and really, really philosophical and practical and grounded at the same time. Like when I talk about channeling and guides and stuff, she's like, "All right, this is a little much for me," but really opened me up to really being a good person and doing spirituality like my whole life. Like high school took me to Barnes and Noble. We saw Ram Dass's Be Here Now and she was like, "Oh, here we're listening to Power of Now in the car at Tolle." So I really have her to thank for being on this spiritual journey, and I feel like who I am as a soul, obviously, like incarnated into that family with the deep spiritual tones for a reason, because that's what would help me do my work, which I'm uncovering as I go, the depths of the layers. I think we all are a little bit, even though those
Absolutely.
of us who are guides are like, wow, like what am I doing? Wow. Like, wow, all the time.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, again, right? Life is a healing journey, and that's
100%.
exactly what you just like, described it as. I love it. That's amazing. I wish I discovered this stuff way back then.
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, that's all perfect. I feel like we're on our own path and discovery of everything. And so, that said, I know that since you've actually been in this realm and whatnot throughout your life, so I wouldn't really say you had like this autopilot life of uh living beforehand, right? So it wasn't really any of that.
But when you asked me originally about autopilot, something clicked for me and
Mm.
it wasn't. And so this is going to sound kind of weird, but I'm going to just say what the truth of what it is. Um, my autopilot wake up was being naive. So
Mm.
I, I mean, it's so weird because I know I'm talking to like an audience of people who don't know me, but I see myself, I have like this deep old soul crone wisdom, and that's does a lot of the teaching work. But on the polar opposite, I'm this like sweet, sweet little girl, like sweet, like I'm not like ego-y competitive. I experience a lot of it because of the voltage of what I hold in like the multidimensional. And so that on this earth plane is threatening. So there's groups of women in sisterhood and who I am as a leader. And so I've been attacked so much in this lifetime and also in other lifetimes. And my most popular meditation was releasing the witch wound. And I released that in like 2021, 2020. And it went viral on Insight Timer and different things like that. But I really have firsthand experienced the pain of what it is to have a lot of compassion. I just saw it, total segue, but I'm going to just truncate this. With the Dalai Lama. Now, a lot of people in Western yoga culture, my friends on Facebook and everybody, were like, the Dalai Lama's a pedophile. This is terrible, blah, 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 all these things. And I was heartbroken. Two reasons. One, I have deep Avalokiteshvara. I have like deep transmissions of Tibetan consciousness and wisdom, and it's been a huge gift for me on my path. And I have great spirit, like great reverence for that tradition. So the fact that a bunch of yogic people who were taking, look, I'm on like a platform all of a sudden, the fact that a bunch of Westerners were taking something that they take, these are yoga teachers, people who take Eastern modalities and use them for their own businesses and practices, were so slanderous to a whole group of people they know nothing about. And then what broke my heart on top of that deeper is that they couldn't actually see true compassion when they saw it. So there were other footages that nobody paid attention to of the parents and the kid and being interviewed afterwards, being like, we are so grateful that the Dalai Lama blessed us and he played with me with the tongue and thank you, thank you. And all the people in our country were like, they made a judgment, they presumed, and they just like ran down the street with on fire with that like flag. And I was like, I really had a little bit, I did a big defending thing, and I really had a bit of a breakdown. My nervous system that week was very, very heavy because even so much now that just bubbled, that story bubbled out of me in like
Right.
5 minutes, right? I guess it needed to be spoken because it made me think of the Jesus story, which I grew up Jewish, so that wasn't like a part of my homecoming culture. But imagine a being who's bringing compassion to the earth and then gets crucified by the people who you're supposed to help, you know? And so that was my wake up, to be honest. I'm not a perfect person. I do
Mm.
have an ego. I have vengeful thoughts, all the things. So I've made deep mistakes, and I will err on the side of innocence and giving more than I will in the way that I see other people are snarky with each other, strategic with each other, passive aggressive. These are all things I had to
Manipulative.
learn. I didn't even
Yeah.
know. I'm not wired that
Mm.
way. I'm wired for compassion and like truth and squishiness and holding. I can be like, if somebody crosses me, I can be fierce. I have a warrior archetype. That's not what so I understand that, but it's for justice and integrity. It's not like to get, I came in with a knowing and an understanding in this lifetime of what true power is. But also, not only that, actually, no, that's not true. When I lost everything, I had an initiation in Boulder where I trusted a whole group of people who were in an ayahuasca circle with me. They were my teachers and other beings who like were like, yes, come in, you're gonna help do the ceremony, da 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 da, and then just like backstab, we hate you, like evil,
Oh,
evil.
wow.
During when I was on ayahuasca, psychic attack, the whole thing. I mean, like really
During the ceremony.
beyond the beyond. So
Wow.
over repeated things over time. It was nuts. I had to go through that experience, kind of not understanding what was happening because of erring on the side of compassion and wanting to trust these people that I had kind of like over years devoted a practice to. I mean, it gets really insidious, and I think a lot of people, maybe some people listening who have been in spiritual communities, where it can get a little squirrely with the energies and people can
Absolutely.
but the
You don't
reason why
know where some of them are coming from. I mean, I actually have a couple friends that they're really becoming a stand for standing up for those that are in this conscious communities, healers that so-called say healers yet are manipulative or creating
yeah.
these cults and making people think that you must have a healer in your life, where I truly believe everyone can be their own healer. And I coach and guide people to be their own healers, to be the master of themselves. And I do that as a healer, and I don't believe that I'm the one healing them, right? Whereas you see so many others that just manipulate these poor souls, really. And so I get the human compassionate side, right?
And because it becomes your spiritual practice, you don't want to let it go. So it's like it becomes so tied into like, well, I can't face what's actually here and happening because this is where I come to connect with God. So how can that, like it gets very sticky in that way, right?
Oh yeah.
So as I as the grace, Ram Dass says this actually. He says that if you have a method, you have to pray that it self-destructs because you don't want to be attached to anything. So you want to be able to release the method. So the ayahuasca ceremonies was my method for connecting, and it self-destructed. And in that self-destruction, that's where I learned what true power really is, because
Mm.
mine was tried to be taken from me. And then what happened was I ended up going through this like weird initiation where it's like, okay, now I have nothing and now I'm starting completely over. But then one invitation, and the invitation looked like exactly like where I thought I was going on the other path. So it was like, would you like to co-lead the ceremony with me? Would you like, it's a small ceremony. We're just singing into one person who has a metal poisoning and then like embodying my inner
Oh,
shamanic nature.
chills. Mm.
Right. And then not only that, seeing not the power that moved through me, but in a way, yes, that, but also the reflection of who I was in the ceremonial space. When I had enough room to breathe and embody, it was home. And I was so grateful for that reflection that I didn't create with my intention or my ambition, but was shown to me. And in my service to the other woman who I was doing healing with, and not only in the ceremony, but then afterwards, again, I was like, oh my goodness, this is my path. This is what I thought was true. And then I was made doubt it because of this sabotage, but that wasn't true. That was ego. And so it taught me a lot. It taught me about the circle, and like when we are in leadership, we can actually lead and share power. And that's the long story short of when I said I came into this world with an intrinsic knowing of what power is, but it's not true. I came into this world needing to know how to hold power in a way that it was all of ours at the same time,
Yeah.
that there was some kind of transcendent nature to it, and that there was no lessening if other people around you held power, and that you can hold power. It doesn't have to be oppressive like it is in our culture, over and under. It can actually be shared.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think as somebody, and you know this too, as a woman's empowerment coach, this is like, I feel, be the change you want to see in the world. Like, I feel like the way that I lead and serve, and like my outsider archetype, but my inclusion and the way that I give to women to allow them to become their own teacher without. I had a mentor once, and then I'll stop talking. I had a mentor once, and she said to me, she goes, "Huh?" She's an older woman. She was like almost in her 60s, and she's like, "Oh, interesting. You really empower your clients. You don't make it about you. Huh, that's good." And I was like, like there's another option, but
Yeah.
it is. That's true that they're and I'm so sad that healers get such a bad rap because there are so many because it's so trendy nowadays.
It
It's so
is.
crazy.
I know. And that's the thing is it's like now that we're in this space and it's more, in a sense, popular, right? Whereas I feel like even just 5 years ago or 10 years ago, oh my gosh, we would be looked at as like cray cray, right? And I feel like that said, we do have to still have that sacred space to allow people to take responsibility for their own lives rather than and letting people know that, hey, if someone tells you I will heal you, run the other way.
Uh, yeah.
Because honestly for me, like if someone says that to me, even, I mean, now obviously, but even before, I would probably question it a little bit, right? Because we have it all within us, and the whole thing with one love, one power, we are one together, right? We, like, even look at us, we work in a similar like niche in a sense, yet it doesn't matter because there are so many people that are going to one either be attracted, your tribe is going to be attracted to you, my tribe attracted to me. It doesn't even, there's abundance, right? It's not about competition, it's about collaboration. And so I do believe that having gone through this experience of the betrayal and the phoenix rising, I'm all about phoenix, I'm going to get a tattoo of phoenix rising, I'm telling you. Because I do believe that I am that, and it's like over and over again, right? And that's Phoenix Rising for you. And it's like that's what has you really surrender to divinity in all ways.
1,000%. The Phoenix is also a really important and strong metaphor for me as well. In 2012, I met a man he went by Phoenix.
Mm,
And now he's my spirit guide. We were friends for 1 year. And he really recognized me as a soul. He was really, really important. And I'm so grateful for that ayahuasca circle during that time, because I actually saw him a lot as after he crossed, and when he was in the limbo space and all of that stuff. I
Mm.
happened to be in ceremony, and now he's one of my guides.
That's
It
amazing.
is. And so I love that you mentioned that and that it's a thing for you. But this definitely was I'm a Scorpio. Are you a
Mm.
Scorpio?
I'm not, I'm an Aquarius.
Oh, ooh, fancy. That's the whole thing. But the Scorpio has the scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix as like the three stages. And I really resonate a lot with the eagle. I feel like I am an eagle, but I also feel like that particular initiation was me understanding the walk of what it is to really be burned to ash. And
Mm.
then the beautiful rising that happens because, and I just posted this today, it's like you can't, like no one can take power from you, no one can take anything from you. You can have experiences that give you a lot of deep trauma, and but who you are as essence, as soul. A lot of the things that I do in my work are like talking about people's souls, seeing them as a soul. I have a crazy uncanny ability to like see into the essence of a being and
Mm.
what they are archetypally and like cosmologically, like what their patterns have been, what the past and the family lines have been. It's the lineage that they're transmuting. It's amazing. But that part of you is eternal. And that eternal part of you cannot be changed by things that happen. And the more that we identify with that eternal part of us, if we did, we would have kinder hearts. We would be more compassionate. We would see the oneness, and we would celebrate each other more and understand that, like what you were talking about with the scarcity and the abundance, etc. It's like I notice that the more generous I am, if people ask me questions in my coaching practice, the more I give, the more I get back. It doesn't come direct from those sources, but it comes from every freaking where.
Yeah,
And that,
balance. Yeah, absolutely.
that makes
Yeah,
me so happy.
it's so exciting too. I noticed that too because I had a huge shift from autopilot, and I went from scarcity, negativity, and all. Like I was an engineer in my this lifetime, but like the
Oh,
software engineer.
Aquarius, you were using that part of your mind. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
and so it's like to go from that to all of a sudden waking up and I'm like now here, right? And I know it was all for me to catapult to where I am today. I
Mm.
probably would have gotten here 15, 20 years later. And this whole brain tumor journey that I had, I truly believe is what got me to where my soul's purpose is at a much quicker pace to be able to do the work in this time, right? In this time that we're in, like the higher consciousness is truly like it's just been rising, and it's just an amazing time for us to be that. And we're still going to have those human experiences, because that's what we're here for. We're here to heal those different layers and whatnot. And so it's amazing to hear from someone like yourself where you've just had these experiences too, and seeing like when you went through that phoenix, I'm going to call it phoenix
Go for it.
phoenix
Uh,
rising for yourself, like did you notice if you had some like mindset shifts, or did you notice like something shifted?
Well, because of the karma, I believe in karma really hardcore. In fact, so much that, like, ironically, I had an astrology reading like 2 years afterwards, and the astrologer he's like this really funny guy, and he was like, "So you have a thing in your chart that says you will be a part of a spiritual community, and they're supposed to take care of you, and you trust them very much, and then they betray you. Has anything like that happened to you?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, it happened two
Oh
years
my god,
ago." So
amazing.
because of the karmic period, and maybe you've experienced relationships like this, when you're playing out karma, it's almost as if you're under a spell. You're a little dissociated. You're making choices. You don't even know. It's like it's happening through you a little bit, or like you're swimming through water. So when I was living in Boulder at the time, it was like that. I was like, what is it? Where am I? Don't even know what's happening. So I was just like going with the moment. And then yeah, it was like it took time. It took a few years for that whole trend, and you can also look at it astrologically, like Saturn. Have Scorpio Saturn, so I thought my Saturn return was like discovering that plant medicine and like whatever. I became a teacher, college professor, all these things. And then Saturn hit the rest of my chart is Sagittarius. So when Saturn went through Sagittarius, it like hit everything in all the planets. And I was like, it was like falling off a mountain and like hitting every rock down. It was like, ugh, ugh, ugh. but it purified me. It purified
Mm.
me because now
Mm.
I understand truth. I don't fall for flattery. I'm not. I can like I can hear conscious. Well, I think also that's like the last few years. So yeah, there was a maturation in my thinking when I started to heal from it, and then I think if you, after one goes, I mean, you must have gone with the brain tumor. I can't even imagine having a physical thing because that's like its own. Mine was like psychic warfare, right? But yours is like a physical thing to like be in relationship to. That must have taken so much attunement, to work with. And that's like, I don't know, I just reverence for all of that process because it's very deep. But um, yeah, as I was navigating it, like in the years later, once you start to see the truth of who you are from that being stripped, no one can ever take any that from you anymore. It's like you earn your stripes. And for me, the maturity of coming into womanhood in that way, of like being embodied. And then I had to do a lot of work around I went through the ringer with like the polarity work and the masculine, feminine integration of my own inner
Mm.
masculine, inner feminine. Some of the teachers telling me that certain aspects of the warrior in my being masculine, but then me finding out on my own through things that didn't feel right with certain teachers and being like, no, 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 that's fierce feminine and that's dark feminine. And that might be not palatable to that man who's telling me that it's too masculine, but it does. And so there were layers and layers and layers of wisdom that have like gotten in, and I'll be 40 this year. And so now I'm like, okay. And I'm sure when I'm 50, I'm going to think that I was a baby at 40, just like
We
I
always
thought
do,
I was
right?
together when I was 30. And I realized how much of a child I still was in so many ways.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
definite
absolutely.
mindset shifts of life being a healing journey.
Hmm.
And it's funny, I also feel like teachers need to have that humility and that studentship of like being able to live life will, I mean, you said you have the Phoenix karma too. So if you were constantly going to the top of the mountain and then it crumbles down and then we're reborn, there's a rebirthing. And I think that that's actually dark feminine codes, like witches and wise women and women who are shunned by, that's my whole release the witch moon thing, like the women who have the power and the majesty and the magnificence, they're like, oh no, not here. You know, is safe, safe, safe. No, no, no. And it's like, we're the ones who are going to heal the earth, but
Yeah.
we'll wait.
And through that, I mean, I truly do, because I truly do believe like I'm really resonating with this, the fierce that because I always have seen myself as like a very strong person. I mean, I've told that like all the time. And I can see it. I'm like, even right now, I'm going through like a fertility journey. We've been trying since like
Ooh.
November 2020. So we're going on almost 3 years. And no joke, it's been emotionally more, I feel like tougher on me than anything of the brain tumor journey was, even
Oh,
though that was like stage 4, like you're gonna die, right? I shouldn't be here right now, type of thing. And this is just it's constant up and down roller coaster. And I'm like, I know this is to expand me and expand who I'm gonna touch. And I know my next level is to work with those that are dealing with fertility struggles. And I see that coming more and more, honestly, anyway. And really, I truly always say it's like the greater the struggle and the pain, the greater the gratitude and the gain. And those like us that are here to heal the earth, we're gonna unfortunately go through more shit. I feel like in order to get us to catapult to the next level, like really up level, elevate. And it's really for others to serve others too, right?
that would be another wake up that I had to, which that, and I teach mentorship groups, right? Like
Mm,
every year I have like, right now I have 5 women. Last year I had like 8 women, so they're pretty small and intimate. But it was last year, and the group's name was Surrender,
mm,
talking about what that is and that your hero's journey in the cycle. And then a lot of the clients that were coming to me were about to do like a death portal, but they were like, no, I don't want to. I'm hanging on. And then it's like, well, wait, but when you surrender, that's when you get the transformation. You're able to go full circle through the journey.
mm.
Um, but why did I mention that? I mentioned that because what were you just saying about the fertility cycle?
Oh, just going through this fertility journey and how it's tougher.
Healing.
Yeah.
No, no, no,
Oh, to
because
the next level?
we have to. No, it was because Okay, check this out. The
Mm,
priestess path, like
mm.
what I was telling my students, I was like, I wish I could tell you that everything was cool. Like it was like these because these women were the young women are coming to me and being like, I don't have the courage to be as witchy as I truly am. I don't have the courage to bang the drum. Because even scared, I had a client recently this year where we went out to the woods and did like because she lived in Austin and we did and she was like, it's why am I so scared of my power and like hitting the drum like I mean it's amazing what really embodied feminine powerful things
Mm,
will do when a woman's not quite allowed to own herself in a certain way, whether that's karmic past life or trauma from this life. It's like very visceral. But when a woman identifies with the priestess archetype, I feel like that was a pact made eons ago somewhere that we are in service, temple work for the rest of forever. And for some reason, we have super high highs and super low lows. And
mm.
we will,
Ooh, goosebumps again.
executed, right? We will be like, and but then the super high highs are the gift of being a conduit between heaven and earth and being able to sing to the rain and the wind and have it sing back to you. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. And
That's like,
uplift others. Absolutely. It's like you don't know how many people just come to me and say, "Oh my God, just being around you, I feel like my energy is higher. I feel so much better." And it's just me being me, right? And it's because of all the really lows, like you said, that have allowed me to just live life to the fullest in the face of any circumstance. Even this whole month has been like, oh my God, like a complete roller coaster. Yet I'm like, no, I feel the feels. I always say you got to allow yourself to really feel all the feelings too. I'm not suppressing, right? And it's like, what can I do to constantly just get to that place and spark joy and love and get to that high vibration? Because I know that with that, then I'm going to be able to be my best with my clients, be my best on this interview with you, right? And have
totally.
like the best life possible. And looking at all the things that happen is like, what did I learn from it? What gifts came out of it? And
Yeah.
so that's just how I guide everyone as well. And I do more one-on-one. So I'd like to do group, but I feel like I'm not there yet. I had one group one time and I've attempted and it just hasn't worked out. And because I do subconscious reprogramming work, I don't know if you've heard of psyche. Have you
I
heard
have.
of okay, so that's what I facilitate, and that's more of like a one-on-one thing. So
It's
looking into
It's hypnotherapy-ish, you
yeah,
know? I guess you could do
ish.
group meditations that had a theme.
Mm.
Um, I love my one-on-ones, to be honest with you. I was like literally, I was just telling my mom that. I was like, man, I love the groups that I teach as well, but my one-on-ones I would do if I was just telling one of my clients, I would do this for free if I didn't have bills. Like I freaking
Right.
love it.
So
I would do
fulfilling.
this all day. I would be like, what you want to talk about? Do 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 do. This is your karma and the psyche, no problem, got that. She was like, wow. I'm like, yeah, I'm great at this. I love this. This is my jam. Yeah, no, it's
Right.
definitely, it's my happy place for sure.
Yeah.
There was one more thing that I wanted to say into what you said, but now I can't remember. Oh, shoot. Come. Uh, oh, no, I can't. It's
We have
lost.
I feel like we have just so much to share. It's like I love it because it's like the first time that we've actually connected. I mean, I actually remember seeing all your posts about Dalai Lama and that
Oh,
whole
really? Yeah, that went
yeah,
super
I feel like
viral.
that's when I started seeing more of your things because I mean, I'll be honest, when I first saw that, I was like, "Whoa, what just happened there?" And of course, all the people making all the pedophile, comments and whatnot. But when I read what you had written, and I started looking more into it, I'm like, "Oh yeah, that is the Tibetan culture." So, like, people just don't know, and they just are so fast, especially behind computers where no one can see them, to just throw their opinions out there, and as if like it's the truth or something, right? And of course, to each their own, but it's like I remember that's when I really got connected with you because I'm like, I love that you're just sharing something that you truly believe in and you educated me, right? And
Yeah.
then I saw more of that coming out from others that were from Tibet saying that, no, this is part of our culture, actually, like, the tongue sticking out.
We're gonna eat the tongue. Yeah, eat the tongue.
Yeah, it's like there's like something about the culture, and I was like, "Oh, see, we don't know what cultures are. Like, why are people just making these
Don't.
judgments for no reason?" And it's because just unfortunately there's just so much division right now that I truly am doing my best to bring in as much love possible, because it all starts here. Like, I'm Persian, and right now with what's happening in Iran, it's absolutely insane. Yet no one knows about it. It's
No, I
like
do know about.
literally
Yeah, I
is
know
like,
exactly what you're
but you
talking
know what
about.
I mean?
No,
It's like
but
it's been
that's
shut down. It's like
totally.
still happening, but no one talks about it.
I know. And that's
And
what's
it's like,
heartbreaking. That's actually what's more heartbreaking. What's
mhm.
heartbreaking is that we have a culture. I mean, I've been posting memes for the first time on my Instagram after I swore that I would never post because I did it one time. It was just like an impulse. It was like this, and I posted like 10 things, and I thought it was funny what I was doing. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be, and I got more likes on that post than any other one. So I'm like, okay, how can I, because I'm a teacher, where
Mm.
I'm a teacher, like just like you said with the compassion piece of the Dalai Lama, it's like
Mhm.
my push, my impulse is to serve and teach humanity, and not to talk crap about like all of humanity, but like we are really not at a place where I thought we were. And I thought that I'm like learning that recently. I'm learning that with people, what they can digest in 30-second bites. I'm learning that with like watching what's trendy on Instagram and what the mass consciousness actually plugs into versus like what spiritual nerd Michelle plugs into. And like I get told all the time because of social media, like people who are like, I'm gonna review your account. They're like, you need to be more human. You look like a teacher. And I'm like, this is legit who I am. I am a dork. But the thing is like I guess I come off more personality. I'm also from South Florida. I've got a little hood like edge,
Love
sometimes
it.
like
Yeah.
hippie raver goth Michelle. Like that's who I was when I was in high school. And so I get all of that, but I miss sophistication, and
Mm.
I miss like old world maturity, and I miss people who have a way about them that is wise. And I'm like, where are my people who, and that ironically runs my business because I am who I am, and I don't have a whole large following, but the women who see and hear me are like, oh, where has this been? It's like Oasis in the desert vibes, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
there's a depth to my being and what I embody that I get to teach, but I'm even learning on my own journey how to translate some of the esoteric concepts that I know and learn, and how to guide a whole civilization, if I want to be that grandiose, of people who really good people that I saw who have like a narrow more mindset, even if they think that they are spiritual, but are really confused about like the material aspects, and like think that certain things that are spiritual are really just like really ego cloaks of ambition in disguise of, and not people who just, I don't know, who aren't, um, to open hearts to be more passionate about reverence and prayer, not in a religious way, but in a way that attunes us to all that is. That's the thing that I wanted to talk about, that you had said
Mm.
I forgot, because you
Mm.
said people heal just by being around me. And I
Mm.
think that's a big part of my personal prayer that I walk in, and what I teach in my little lingo. I say, become an embodiment of healing. So own your
Yes.
power through your voice, but you become an embodiment of healing. And I don't want to each their own, but I wouldn't know why you wouldn't want to do that. Like, why wouldn't you want to weave yourself to all of the natural world and live in accordance with natural law and the wheel of the year and the witchy pagan practices that really bring us into the purity of all of life, so that life can flow through us as a channel, and then people come into our frequency and we radiate love out at them. And that circles back from the very beginning of the thing. So I go to humanity, right? I leave Florida, I leave where I'm home, and I go out into the hippie spiritual world, and I'm like, I'm full of love. And they're like, it's literally in The Simpsons. It's like, she's full of love, kill her. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it is the same thing with the Dalai
Right.
Lama. When I made this video, and then I put that clip at The Simpsons at the bottom where like Mr. Burns is radioactive, and he comes back, and they all see him, and he's like got his eyes really big, and he's like, he's full of love, he's full of love, kill it. And I'm like, wow, we really live in the dark ages a little bit still. Fascinating. Even in the spiritual community, also fascinating. But what else are we going to do? But what else is there to do but serve what is
Mm,
here now, and hope that my transmission in some, it's loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all the beings in all the universes be happy and free of suffering.
yes.
May my actions in some small way contribute to the cessation of suffering for all beings.
Absolutely. And that's truly what I embody, because like when like I was saying all the Iran stuff was happening, I mean, it was a lot for me. It still is. And I keep pouring them with love energy. I keep pouring, like
Wow.
surrounding them violet flame, because at this point, what else? I mean, I actually have gone into surrogation with the people to be able to like really do whatever I can from an energetic standpoint,
Wow.
and do it from like a higher vibration, because going to protests, as great as it was for me to release the anger and frustration, it's not serving a true purpose, because
Yeah.
things are not changing, right? And so it's really embodying like that love, being love, and allowing that to just vibe outside of us. And I remember seeing somewhere that those like with like, I think it's like if you have enlightenment frequency, you're like able to uplift like I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people. And it was like a whole thing. I can't remember specifically, but I remember seeing that based on what frequency that you're vibrating out, you actually can impact others around you and uplift their vibration as well. So it's like, yeah, like you said, why not? Why not be that? Why not thrive for that? And I do believe it's because we're getting to that place where just shit is coming to the surface. I see us in a cocoon. I see us going through labor right now, like as like a humanity, as Earth. It's like there is so much happening, and I feel like all this has to happen in order for us to really transform and have a new birth of some
It's
kind,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So whatever that's going to look like, I don't know. And I just rather hold that vision than to say, oh, we're all going to hell and we're all dying and Earth is going to crumble. And I just rather look at it from that perspective, and then the negative one, I guess. That's just my personal preference, really. Is just to say, hey, like this has to happen for everything to just come up and out, right?
The astrologers that I follow speak to and a channeler that I follow too, who talks about the timeline, says that after 2025,
Mm,
all of the outer planets change. So Pluto fully moves into Aquarius. Saturn, I think, is still in Pisces. I'm not sure, but so there's some changes of things that have been in place for the last 15, 20 years, etc. And then it should be that this year, but I also heard next year is going to be kind of wavy as well, and maybe not so much better than the last couple of years have been, because we know, that's a big other part of my work, to nerd out for a moment, is I've been tracking the cycles since like 2012, which I guess
mm,
would be my 2011, I became a yoga teacher, and that was kind of like
mm,
my spiritual awakening time. And then I can see chapters of energy. 2012 to 2016 was a chapter. 2016, you could say, so this one, it gets a little iffy. 2016 kind of to 2022 was a wave, but it breaks out into groups of like 2 years. So 16 to 18 was a chapter, 18 to 20 was a chapter, 20 was this wild card frequency, which is, yeah, it was
right,
really
all over the place. Yeah.
interesting reset. And then 20 to 22 was a chapter. And then this summer, I felt like it was a message, like 10 years that like linked back. I could watch things that were happening in my pattern to what was happening 10 years prior. So it was like 2020, 12 till I would say maybe last year, 2022, and then now this year we're in like a kind of a new wave. Maybe that'll go, who knows, maybe another 4 years.
Definitely feels wavy this year, not gonna lie.
It's wavy. But these are cyclical waves of ascension, and you can see they're like initiations and choice points. Like 2012, there was like things that came into my life. 2016, again, things that big changes that happen that
Mm,
like, really allow, let's use the word timelines to like start, or people meet, or there are choice points where like the souls go. For those of us who are on like a path of awakening, it's like an up level, boop, and then like the next couple of years you're integrating that, and then boop, and then and so.
yeah,
And
definitely.
more people are seeing what spirituality is,
Oh,
they're
absolutely.
learning different levels of it. That was a cool thing that I saw on, I watched this Tibetan master speak, and he said this cool thing that I'm gonna drop, and it's not mine. He's way cooler than me. And it was half of the world is regular people. And those people have a consciousness like children. They argue, they fight, they squabble. This is mine. No, that is mine. No, it's my toy. It's more in like toddler consciousness, he said. And the other half is yogis.
Mm.
And in the yogis, there are levels of yogi. And those who have like super duper consciousness, right? And then like we have like people, me down here, I'm like, Bhakti, I know mantras, and different levels of yogi. And so I saw that really taught me something, is like the difference between, when people are yogis and they really understand the reverence of life.
Mm.
And then there's people who they're not quite there yet, but hopefully
Yeah, yeah,
with our work and our
exactly.
podcast and our waving our flags about truth and compassion, that they'll start to, their hearts will open
Mhm. Yeah,
and become
I
more
truly believe it's possible for every one of us because the soul is
totally.
there. And of course, the whole free will thing, yes. And I do believe that we are in a whole nother place now than we were even 5, like you said. Like I remember 2012, like watching something on, like, it was like Spirit Science or something, and they were talking
Yeah.
about like 2012 and 2020, and I was like, back then I was engineering world, very much like in my IT
Engineer watching
world.
spirit science videos. That's
And
adorable.
I was freaking out. I'm like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" And so it was interesting how life is like a zipper. I always just say, like, it's just things just
Mm.
come together. And I do feel like it's just it really comes down to really balancing like the mind, body, spirit, which I feel like as a yogi, that's something that you do, right? I mean, you have it's all three connected, and it's so
All three.
important to really not say like, oh, one is more important than the other. All three are equally essential. And I feel like that is something that's becoming more known and more focused on as we are moving up, in a sense. Maybe not so much in the Western world or Western science and Western med, but I think we're going to get there. I do.
Only not in Western medicine. No.
No, I know. Although I'll say this, I did have, because I'm all about frequency healing. And I mean, it's just such a thing where it's like, how can we not be using frequency for healing, right? Every part of us is a frequency. We have frequency everywhere. Every cancer cell has a frequency to it. And I did have a prescription, actual Western medicine prescription, where I wore these arrays on my bald head back then that actually sent frequency and targeted the
Wow.
actual specific fast growing cells, which were the glioblastoma cells, right? But it was specific for those cells to stop them from replicating. So that to me is huge. And I believe they were creating another one for, I think it was pancreatic cancer, or I don't remember, but this was, I mean, we're talking about me, 2017 is when I went through all this. So at this
That was
point,
2017 too. Everything that I was talking about.
oh,
That was
no way. See,
my
and
dark
you know
night of
what's
the
funny?
soul was
Yeah,
2017.
that is, we have so much, because, I grew up in Colorado. I actually went to college
Oh,
my first year in Boulder.
oh, sweet. Well, you're not also from Florida, are you? Because that's
No,
me.
that I'm not.
Okay. Or New York? How about New York?
No, no, just Colorado. Born in Germany, grew up in Colorado.
Oh,
And
Germany. Wonderful.
yeah, yeah, bit of international. And it's just one of those things where I do believe that, having been through all the different places, I mean, I did live in Iran for a year in 7th grade, all these things, but it has allowed me to be a chameleon and really be relatable with so many more people. Right. So
Right.
that's the thing, is when you have a lot of these experiences, you can get more relatable to more people. Like, your little hip hop, like I totally have that too, like little hood, like same, right? And it allows you to just be a chameleon. And I think that's like a gift, really.
I think that's also the
Mm,
goddess and the dark feminine, like that archetype to be able to like the fierce feminine is not scared of all of other people's darkness. They're like, oh, really? Oh, you experienced that? I understand grief. Oh, you had really deep pain? That doesn't scare. I open my arms to that, you
yeah.
know?
Mhm.
More
Absolutely.
of that in the world. This is what's going to heal the world and our culture. So
I love it. So it sounds like you've definitely like really thrived from just that whole situation. Like, do you sense like you got a lot of wins and gifts out of all that came out of that?
my whole
Are
life
you-
is, I mean, I feel more, I feel, hmm, I feel like I have a deeper understanding of human nature,
Mm,
for better or worse, what that is. And that was really my wake up of like what that is. And then, where the thing, like for me, attachments, being able to let go of things when they're not serving you, instead of clinging on to them because you are a Scorpio and letting go of stuff is hard.
right. Not making that label you, right? No labels.
No, but it's so true. I mean, for me, that is how I experience that in a deep way. Scorpio, like, is like, rah, I will be attached to you, but it's not. It doesn't have to. You can, I learned if it comes, come, let it come. If it goes, let it go.
Mm, true
And
surrender.
true surrender, and that in that same way that we were talking about abundance, there's no scarcity in that, and who you are is eternal. And if you lean on life, I mean, to be honest, I'm still integrating this one, trusting all of life, trusting the messages that come, like if you specifically watch who comes into your field at what time, instead of future tripping into like what can you create through your ambition and your intellect and your mind, and you receive what is here now in this moment, and you're actually content to have it. That's a big one that I'm still fine tuning. Then you can receive from life as your teacher, and then there's this deep exchange between you and the world. And I feel like that's where like happiness and fulfillment actually lives, and being a student of what you're here for in life. But it takes a lot of faith to believe that life itself, even in the pitfalls, is benevolent to you and wants your soul to grow from that. And I didn't have that before the situation. It was more about kind of selfish of why I wanted to be altruistic and such, but I wanted to have my own needs met. And then now I understand the discernment between, hey, if it's not working, it's not meant to, what else is here? Where do I need to redirect myself and go? And then there's a self-reliance now that I have, a maturity, and a grace, I feel like a heart-centeredness that I can hold space in a way that I couldn't before. And I won't get lost in things like thinking that they're me.
Mm,
Like when I channel and do a beautiful insight timer session ceremony, I'm just happy that I even get
mm.
to do it,
Yeah.
because go away, you never know.
Yeah.
As my mother
Yeah.
would say, you never know.
I love it.
Yeah. But like, yay that I get to do this work. That was a big lesson. But that was not only from the initiation, it's just also, life and the reverence for life, and that life becomes your teacher. It's really
Yeah.
beautiful.
And it's like you mentioned that being too naive or compassionate is what in a sense was what caused you to have this awakening
Well,
or
technically, I think it
whatever.
was me not having boundaries, to be honest, and being
Yeah.
highly compassionate and not
Yeah.
understanding that not everybody else is that way. And I was like, oh, I did not
Right.
know.
Yeah. And but like look, it really gave you this gift of still being compassionate. Obviously,
I
that's who you
totally am.
are. It's like I
Yeah.
can feel it, like I see it. And it's being that with those healthy boundaries, being very particular and having intentions. And that's what I had to do too. It's like being very intentional about who I let in my inner circle. Right? Because
Discernment.
it truly is a balance at this point, and I now love myself unconditionally, so I don't need to validate or prove myself or anything like that, where my younger self definitely had to do all that kind of stuff, right? So it is huge to go through this life journey, healing
A lot of really sensitive women, because I work with a lot of sensitive women in their 20s and 30s. And I was standing in front of a woman. Oh yes, she was in her 20s. The other woman who I was talking to was in her 30s. And then now I'm approaching my 40s. And she was talking about boundaries. And I said, that's one of them that yes, you can do work on, quote unquote. But that's one of those things that mature as you go, as you become a woman. Like, I think that we all, as women, we're relationship oriented, not only relationship partner, but like all of, we're just like feeding everybody all the time and nourishing everybody all the time and wanting to support everything and give ourselves away constantly. And then slowly you're like, okay, you learn, like, where is that appropriate?
yeah.
Where are my gifts? Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
especially, I don't know, you seem like an extrovert. I'm like probably 98% extrovert. So for me, it
Are
was like,
you?
oh my gosh, yes. I seldom do I enjoy, I mean, I enjoy it alone, like solo time. And it's like, I need it minimally. I much more get energy from others. So for me, I used to be quantity, 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 whereas now it's like quality. And I still love having my, ladies' time and doing it in a way where it doesn't have to be this massive group of people like I had to do back in my
Oh,
20s,
I see. I
30s,
see.
but
Yes.
it's like learning to really, like you said, mature, getting much more much like that maturity. It's like learning more. That to me is also mastering yourself. So it's really like you got yes, like mic drop.
Yes.
But it's like you gotta be able to really learn who you are not. I mean, that's really the work that I do, is really teaching people, guiding people through
Yeah,
that, and getting to know who this is, right?
exactly.
Who you
And that's
are.
not, unfortunately, they don't teach that in school. But
No, we
I
need
am,
to.
I'm half half with, I'm actually more introvert the older I
Okay.
get. Scorpio is taking
Mm,
over. So I recharge by myself.
okay.
I'm Sagittarius rising and five planets in Sag, and I used to do theater. So, and I love performance and stuff like that. So I'm very colorful.
Yeah.
And
I was
I
gonna say you seem very extroverted, but
Everybody,
you
somebody
never
said that
know.
to me yesterday at a meet and greet. She was like, "Oh, you're not extrovert." I'm like, "No, actually,
So
totally not.
interesting.
Very, very. I spend a lot of time alone, and
Mm,
I recognize more and more. Sometimes I'm like, "Man, why are you so alone a lot?" And then I actually understand that it's there's a it like purifies by being so that would be an introvert, like, right, where it's like getting
mm.
all of those other energies out of my field. And because I have such a freaking, I mean, I sound so nerdy, but like I really do have like a really deep dialogue with spirit, sometimes even not as deep as I like, but at least that the silence and the alone time and that the conversation is there. It's not always there. I'm not like perfect. I'm not saying like I'm some kind of whatever wizard. Well, I'm a little bit of a wizard, but but sometimes I'm in my mind like a normal
Mm,
human. And then I like, it just happened like yesterday. I remembered, I was like, oh wait, pray. Don't worry about this. Like, have a conversation. And so even if I'm only talking to myself, there's something that I all of a sudden get reverent. I draw a card. I went outside to meditate at the park. I was like, oh, I'm on cruise control now. Anything that happened, I got like 4 things today, interview, and like 3 clients and a group program, no problem. I got that because I did the inner detox, the cleaning of the space in like this way
yeah.
that it's like, nom, 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 nom,
I love it. Yeah, and it's so interesting to me because so many people, they in this world, I feel like work through that differently too. Like for me, it's like it just comes whenever. Right? If I have like the little indecision, I'm like, okay, stop. I see words. Like that's my primary way
Ooh,
of just like
fun.
receiving, and I see words, see visions. It's like a typewriter in capital letters. That's how I see, like that's, and I'm like, ooh, there goes that. That's why I kept seeing the word compassionate. And I'm like, oh, you definitely are that. And it's like you've like elevated that level of compassion, right? And it's like it just comes. And so with or without other people. And then I think that's why it really is like an extrovert, right? Because it comes either way. And I don't know. It's just something I can't explain, because I have friends who are like, well, don't you need to like clear the space or this? I'm like, it kind of feels like it clears on its own. I don't know. I can't explain it.
Oh, good. I wish I had that resilience. I'm so sensitive. I'm
Yeah.
so
And that's what I hear. I really learned to compartmentalize, I think. I think I've just become really, and I don't know if it's just because I think I was always like that.
well,
I'm,
that's the difference astrologically, air sign Aquarius. I don't know what your moon or your rising is, but
I
I
think
have,
Capricorn.
oh girl, you're badass. Like then that I mean, like,
I don't know astrology very well, but I know Aquarius is, yes, my sun, and then moon is Capricorn. And what's the,
yeah.
I don't know what
So
the
you
third.
have earth and air. So you're like super grounded and then like analytical and like able to do
Mm,
things. So I'm like double water. I have like Pisces moon, which is like the more
okay.
compassion. I mean, like that's what that means. It's like infinite love, soupiness, meh. Scorpio shell, and then Sagittarius rising, adventure girl, like gypsy bohemian, do
I love it.
yeah, but the Scorpio and the Pisces, the water combination,
Mm.
water, the emotion, it's like, where something happened, the juice fell. My mom was like, what are you gonna do if something actually happens? But actually, strangely, that's a Scorpio gift. When something actually happens, that's when I'm a warrior, and what do
Ah, yeah, yeah.
it's amazing. But if the juice falls, I get very sad.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm definitely like, the HSP, highly sensitive
Yes,
person. Like, I
yes.
definitely am that. And I never really understood it. And I used to get called sensitive, but like, I used to try to show I'm like the strong lion and blah, 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 because I didn't want to get hurt. Right. And
Yeah.
now, like, I can cry at a drop, but like, I could probably just cry right now for you. Right. And it's just, I believe like vulnerability, there's just so much power in it. So it's just like allowing yourself to just be you. I cry from gratitude. Just the other day with my client, like I'm acknowledging her and she starts crying, and I'm like, I'm gonna cry with you now, right? Just
Beautiful.
allowing things to flow, I think, is just when we really truly connect to the soul,
Oh.
right?
That's so good. I'm so grateful to hear that there's other women who have the same kind of like frequency that I hold that are doing this and helping other women come to that. Because it
Yeah,
doesn't all look like that,
exciting. No, absolutely. I know. And that's why it's,
Empowerment coaching takes a lot of different forms, but I hear the truth in what you're saying about like the being with somebody, like the
mm,
intimacy of that, and like
yeah.
leaving them and allowing them to be in their own magnificence and bowing to it and like letting them and be so happy for their journey.
Yeah, not taking responsibility. It's not my responsibility to, it's each their own, and I'm here to guide. And that
Um,
was a huge lesson for me to learn. Huge, because you take responsibility for other people's lives.
a
It's
lot of healers do, a lot of beginning people who come to me who are doing this work,
mm,
they stunt themselves in their growth because of perfectionism, a little bit because of family stuff, and then the other, or like what are people going to say about me? And then the other part is they feel like they have to somehow champion the other person in some way that like
right.
gives them results in a way that it's quantifiable, and it needs to have all these different outcomes, and it's like very materialistic in that way, and I'm
Mhm.
like, that's not how this works.
Mm. No, it's, and that's why, again, like, full circle back, but it's like, how can we all really embrace life as a healing journey? Because
Yeah,
that's what we're here for. We're going to be here to the day we die, and we get to choose if we're going to just grow or not. And either way, it all goes to the same place, because we're all dying, right?
yeah,
And I feel like I will always choose the path of growth. And maybe with that choice, I end up experiencing things that, like this fertility journey, that is not so fun.
yeah.
And at the end, it's because I'm learning through this, right? I'm something with my soul chose this path for a reason. And it's really looking at it as like, okay, what was the gift in this? Won't know that now, but like down the road, I was like,
Obviously, you and your body is a teacher.
yeah,
Your physical body is a big teacher for you on
right.
in this,
It
yeah.
is. It truly is. Like majority of things that I've experienced, I feel like have been physical body.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's your
Because
Dharma.
yours is more spiritual,
Mine's like
right?
anything not in a body.
Like
Yeah, like
spirit.
it took me like 10 years to build an email list and like have a business in that way. I was like, which is why I said with the Capricorn Aquarius, I was like, oh, that's amazing. But no, totally. My astral, everything astral, that's very Pisces. And I have a lot of
Mm,
stuff in the 12th house as well. It's like I, for some reason, have this library almost, not so much Akashic records, I go into the library, but like it's like I see it mapped out. So just like you were talking about, you see the words.
mm,
Like I can
mm.
feel the threads of people's like astral identities,
Wow.
and I see everything archetypally since I was 9 years old, man. When
That's
I was like
amazing.
learning about myths and astrology and all of the archetypes. Like for some reason, all of that was like click. I already know
Ah,
everything. I
so
lived it.
what do you
Yeah.
see with mine?
Well, the body thing is beautiful. Obviously, the you said you're Persian.
Mhm.
Right. And so that when you, the fierce feminine, et cetera, like that, there's a very, in that culture itself, that there has a very, there's a deep strength and a warriorship, things that would get misconstrued as masculinity, but like passion and fervor and almost like, and as I speak to that and you're glowing in front of me, like I see like a flamenco dancer. I don't know, do you dance and
I
do,
love dance. It's my soul's language. Yeah. More Persian dancing than
not
anything.
for
So there
me,
might be a
but
little bit of that.
no, yeah, the Persian, but the I saw the dancer and the woman,
Yeah.
with the red dress and like flinging it. So that's beautiful. So and so you
That's my
do.
favorite color. So yeah.
Okay, well there you go. So that's what I see. All
I
right,
love
knock me out of
it.
the park.
That's yeah. I used to actually do choreograph Persian dances, dance choreograph dances, yeah, like perform and whatnot. In my Colorado life, when I came out here, I just danced because I just love to flow, more for fun. But back in Colorado, since I was a kid, yeah, did so much of that. Yeah.
Wow. Do you ever put that on Instagram and like do reels or?
I have some stuff on Facebook. It's like probably like in the memories somewhere. But yeah, I should maybe put that on
You
Instagram. I
should.
haven't like done anything new.
Doesn't matter.
So
They
yeah.
don't know.
Maybe I could. I could look into that.
You could do that, or you could do your own version of it now,
Mhm.
nowadays, and bring all of that parts of you out.
Well, just dance is such a feminine energy flow, right? Like so much energy moves through us through dance, and it's like high vibing, right? And so I always will say, like, you want to raise your vibration, go put your favorite song on and go dance to it.
I
You
think
know?
it's amazing to have what you have, though. You have something where you're a part of a culture, like a real true lineage, and then you've practiced an art in that lineage. I don't think I quite, I have mine with my astral lineages, like Bhakti
Mm.
Yoga and the Native American kind of stream of consciousness that goes through me. And but I don't have, I have Armenian on my mother's side. I
Oh,
don't like
cool.
anything from those traditions. I'm very Americanized, but that is must feel, it must feel very transcendent for you to do those dances and then kind of feel the lineage.
Hmm.
And
It
then,
truly does. I always used as a kid, even I just remember even before I was like 10, I will always remember when I would go do these performances, it was like I would literally say, I just went to another planet. Like it feels like I'm just dancing in the clouds. I can't even describe it.
so
So
happy.
it's amazing. Yeah. Mhm.
Wow. Yay.
Yay. Well, oh, this is amazing. I'm so glad that we had such a wonderful conversation.
Feminine, juicy,
Connecting.
embodied
Yes, yes,
conversation blended
absolutely.
in dance
Talking
and
about,
cloud.
yeah. And it's what I love about like doing this podcast for me. I feel like I get to just play. And that's what we're doing, right? It's like that feminine inner child play because I'm all about fun and play. I feel like we all need to have more fun and play in our lives. And so I really appreciate you coming on here, sharing your wisdom with us, sharing all about your journey in your life as a healing journey, right? And
100%.
yeah, please share about if people want to reach out to you, find you, please.
Yes, the call to action, the infamous call to action. So my name is Michelle Coutinho. It's MiChelleCoutinho.com. And you can read all about me on the probably too many words on my website there. You can download the Releasing the Witch Wound meditation kit on my website. So if you scroll down, you can see that there. It's a really, really beautiful meditation. I have some really nice reviews from Insight Timer where they're like, this is the best 15 minutes of my life that I've spent. So that was a really phenomenal transmission that came through me. Speaking of Insight Timer, I do weekly lives at Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific, and those are called Vocal Alchemy for Chakra Clearing. I channel my guides on a good day where they speak, and basically we do vocal toning through the chakras, meditation. I also speak to what's in the collective space, so it's like a bit of an intuitive reading for the psyche of the people, and I love the community there. I have many meditations on there, some are premium. I'm going to do a mantra course, so that's going to come up in the next month, depending on when you're seeing this. And I do one-on-one work, and that is the best, most beautiful, juiciest thing.
Mm,
Also, I do a mentorship group as well every year, but man, my one-on-one is it's a grace that I love doing, and I would serve and do this for without question for the rest of my life. I will do that.
mm,
It is what I had a vision of when I was very young. I had a vision. I was like, women come and they pay me thousands of dollars to have tea with me. But
ooh,
it really is that way where we're like you said
mm,
when you were with your client and she's crying and we're in sisterhood together. And
mm,
I also work with men too. If there's any men, I work 20% with men in like tantric embodiment initiation with the goddess. And then with older women, I work with about their reclamation of the goddess because usually older women have served so much that they have forgotten themselves a little bit in the generation that's like 50s, in their 50s nowadays.
right.
There tends to be this reclaiming. I've served, I've done. How do I make peace with all the things that have happened to me? And then allowing them to come to their guides. And yeah, it's very multidimensional soul-based work. And so if you want to apply for that after listening to all of that, you can go to the link bit.ly, so bit.ly/soul mentorship.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for listening. Till next week's episode, which will be focused on the mind.